could bring the moderates and progressives together very easy if you had 2 more votes. Yeah, 2.
Okay, so that is Joe Biden calling out, kind of, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. I mean, those are the 2 votes, or at least the 2 that will identify themselves. Let's never forget that there might be more people behind the scenes. But anyway, that is, for Biden, that's brutal.
That was pretty good.
Mentioned that they're against him, for him, is something. Thankfully, there are others that are a little bit more aggressive about what they think about Sinema and Manchin and what might happen as a result of it. Let me demonstrate that in a few ways. The first is this video of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Someone who famously came to office having primaried an out-of-touch conservative Democrat from the left. Should Sinema now be worried about a primary challenge come 2024? Do you think that needs to be talked about more as a way of reminding her that the pressure is on in an increasingly bluish state, Arizona?
Well, I think ultimately that is always up to the folks right there in the state of Arizona. Are they happy with their leadership? Their most recent senator that they had just elected is more progressive, fights very hard for working families. But that is ultimately up to the people of Arizona. It is a state that is increasingly Latino and Latina. It is a state where indigenous people really just showed up and organized in incredible, remarkable ways for the presidential election. It is a place where working class populist politics is really taking off. And I think that, if you're home in Arizona, it's a question that you may want to raise.
I love about that, John, is, what she's so right. And the Southwest is really waking up, really still in many ways, the United States is still under colonialism and the powers of colonialism and of oppression of people of color and Native people, specifically in those states. And the more we learn, the more we are empowered about who we are, where we come from, our backgrounds, the more that the politics are going to start to change. And I see that happening not only in Arizona, New Mexico, it's happening, Texas, it's happening. We're seeing it happen all over the Southwest. And Arizona was a hard red state. Sinema, no one goes to the cinema in Arizona. Let's just say that. They go to the movies.
That's gonna be in a political ad someday. I don't know if it'll be effective, but I like it. No one goes to the cinema, man. Okay, that's good. Look, I like the attack of AOC there. It's not too aggressive, but she's right. Look, I don't know substantively. Again, we're gonna have to evaluate how likely she is to be primaried and how effective it might be. There are polls showing 2/3 of Arizona Democrats would support a primary challenge if they might not individually support whoever that is. That was back in July, bear in mind. I can't imagine she's more popular now than she was in July. So just bear that in mind. She's way less popular than other Democrats. Democrats in Arizona, she has a net plus 23 approval rating among Democrats. The other senator is 53 points more positive. Biden's plus 89. So way more popular than Sinema in her own state. So bear that in mind. But we'll have to see if a protest or if a primary actually comes. I certainly hope that it does.
I find it funny that the 2 that are really standing in the way, Sinema and Manchin, they have these names, Sinema, and then I've already made the correlation of Manchin and a mansion. Like, did they change their names to be a little bit more hoity-toity? Like, are they really trying to be with the 1%ers? Like, what's going on with these 2? I don't know. They come from money.
The attempts to combine their names, like Cinemansion, Mancina. I'm not loving them necessarily, but anyway.
I would be embarrassed if I was Manchin to be associated with Sinema. I mean, they're both equally vile in their own way, but she's just like a caricature. I just can't.
I think they could both do better, honestly. Anyway, so the pressure continues in other forms too. For Jayapal, after a good week of keeping the Progressive Caucus unified, and they did what they said they would do, continued with that over the weekend, saying that the $1.5 trillion figure for the economic bill was too small. She wouldn't say whether she would accept a $2.1 trillion price tag, which scares me quite a bit. Anyway, but she said that's not going to happen on the 1.5. That's too small to get our priorities in. It's going to be somewhere between 1.5 and 3.5. And I think the White House is working on that right now because remember, what we want to do is deliver childcare, paid leave, climate change, housing. There's a lot of priorities. I don't want to see between 1.5 and 3.5 personally. Let's keep that lower figure way higher.
Yeah.
But
we have so much to do. It's really upsetting, especially in the wake of this economic crisis with COVID. I mean, we need this infrastructure. We need this stuff passed. We need childcare. We need all this stuff happening. And we haven't even seen the effects of it yet. So if we don't get this passed, next year it's gonna be real rough times for a lot of families.
Yeah, and when you look at how long it's taken to pass this, are they literally gonna pass 0 bills next year? It feels like that might happen. We'll have to see. I guess they get their reconciliation bill next year. We'll see what they do with that in the month before an election. I'm sure they'll be quite bold.
They'll go on vacation.
Anyway, yeah, probably. Well, she certainly will, whether they do or not. Now, I also want to talk a little bit briefly about the popular conception of Manchin and Sinema, what they think about them, because there has for a long time been a lot of free PR, just sort of ambient social PR for moderates and centrists. I would take both of those words, bundle them up, throw them in the sun. But anyway, that is cracking a little bit. Don Lemon had his little thing with Chris Cuomo calling them Republicans in the Democratic Party. I like that for Don Lemon to say that. I think that's good.
Pretty good.
Over the weekend, John Oliver did a great segment on the two of them. I'm a big fan of John Oliver. I don't like that he called them moderates. I think he needs to wake up to that being a complete fiction. But I'm glad that he's pushing back. Whether they kill this bill or not, let's not let them get through this year without everyone in their state knowing who they are. And even SNL, as I predicted earlier that day, you did have Kyrsten Sinema. Cecily Strong did a great Kyrsten Sinema.
Great.
If I could critique, and I know most of you come here for a comedy critique from me, they went with the like agent of chaos angle, which Cecily Strong plays very well. She did the same thing with her Tulsi Gabbard a couple years ago. They didn't talk about why she's doing it, which is because she's there for the donors. Yeah. There was no corruption. There was no donors. It was just, I don't need to have friends. And it was very well acted, but substantively I had an issue with it. And I continue to hate their portrayal of AOC. But anyway, I hope that the tide is turning, Viviana. I hope that people know who they are and they can see past I think
that's an important point though, John, about SNL, because I think it really, and then you're talking about, just media in general and how they're painting this picture, but we have to keep in mind who's behind SNL, who's behind all of these shows. And so the whole Democratic Party is full of moderate. So what's Sinema? She's not a moderate. They're all moderate. AOC's the left, and she's actually probably, her and Bernie are what Democrats should be. So they're not gonna be too hard on them. They're gonna make fun of them because it's fun, but substantive, they're not gonna go there. They're not gonna go there because people don't want to hear it, and people don't really know all that you know, John. And they're not gonna, they just want the surface fluff. And that's kind of probably why we've gotten into this mess with Facebook and social media, is people only want the surface. And we need to be substantive. We need to get down in the dirts. In the dirts, in the roots, in the dirt, in the roots.
There's multiple dirts. But anyway, and that's not, if Cecily Strong is watching this, and I hope to God she is, it's not a critique of you. Great performance.
No, but comedians say that she does a great job and she's hilarious, but like they're gonna say, well, my job's not to educate people on whatever.
Well, and also I doubt she wrote the sketch.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.